They say the best things come from the worst shit. This all facts, this ain't no verse.
You know what I'm saying? Do that. No, Sam, man, I know you were talking about Monique and her husband. I know you got that queued up over there.
Exactly, man. Well, we all know the Leaving Neverland whole situation with Michael Jackson, Wade Robson, James Safechuck, or whatever his name was, and all that crap that was going on. Well, Monique had a lot to say about it. Let me see if I got her stuff in here right now as I'm looking through the drone real quick. I do right here.
Yes, sir.
She left. She had an interview doing, I guess, her podcast thing with her husband, and she wanted to have she had this to say: here's a man that was found not guilty in the eyes of law, and you wait 10 years. Let me get this closer up to me. And you wait 10 years after this man was deceased to now do an interview with people who said they lied. Speaking on Wade Robson, saying that he did it and didn't lie and all that. For me, it's sad and disheartening. That man welcomed you in his home, and you spoke on him, on how beautiful he was, and all the love this man has shown to children all over the world, that being Oprah. Okay. When we're calling someone a molester and they're no longer here, Michael Jackson is not here to defend himself, which is a major problem. He was found not guilty. Then you come back and you allow these two men to get on your platform and tell this story, and that man cannot defend himself. Who does that? When we're calling someone a molester and they're no longer here, I said that one, my bad. We will take who we think has the bag and we will turn on them, turn them into gods. When you have Sister Kim Whitley and she says Oprah Winfrey is my God, and you're saying because she gave you a television show, you give her God status. I agree, the exposure does not need to happen. However, how do you keep exposing when a man, or how do you keep exposing when a man has been found not guilty? Because if he was found not guilty, then whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
I've seen Dr. Phil, I've seen Dr. Oz, but I can't tell you about the numerous men of color that she brought to the forefront. Hold them in high esteem.
No, I mean, I 100%, and we echoed this sentiment many times here on the podcast. We have to call this exactly what it is. This is a public lynching. That's just, if I can't even, censor that anymore, of this man, for whatever reasons that they got. And with Monique, and here's the most important part, of it for me, and what Monique brought up, is that the fact that this man had his time in court for these same individuals, he walked out of there. They come back and trying to destroy this man's legacy after all of these years. It's slander, it's defamation, it's the worst thing that you can do. Just call it what it is. These guys are looking for money, looking for clout. They call that now, right? Clout, fame, notoriety. That's what they're looking for. And they're doing it at the expense of Michael Jackson and his estate and his name, because they had some type of connection, an intimate connection. She also talks about this is like the ultimate betrayal, the ultimate backstabbing. You bring somebody into your home, you're friendly to them, you make sure they're safe. Probably who knows what he did for him. Now when he's dead, now you want to come back, and come with some fucking scandal. This is crazy, man. I think I done seen it all now, man. In my short 33 years, I've seen a lot, crazy stuff, man. This is at the top of the list right here.
That would make you see some other things later on down the road and probably wouldn't be so surprised and probably end up saying that it was going to happen anyway. I'm not going to talk about Michael Jackson too much in the context. I want to leave this in Monique and Oprah's perspective for the context of the conversation. But it's so crazy how you have a mass of people, especially people who really once rolled with this man in Michael Jackson, rolled with his music, roll with what he believed in, roll with what he believed for, who knew everything that was going on in his life, if you thought it was weird or not, and you roll with him. You see a documentary and it changes your perspective. Simply hearing the word documentary, seeing it on HBO, the mass appeal, they throw it at you immediately and you automatically assume it's true. Not even thinking for 1 second that the two sources coming out on them are not credible at all. Two known sources that have known to lie on this dude on top of the court, or on top of sitting his day in court and being found innocent, on top of the 10-year FBI investigation on him, on top of the numerous slander. Never, ever was he found guilty of anything he was accused of. And they still run with it. And they still
what do you say
to
the people will say, well, Michael Jackson, he may have covered it up. Listen, you need to be sympathetic to the victims, Sandman, of this, the Robson and the Safechuck. What if something did happen? Why are you being insensitive? What do you say to that?
You got to really excuse me on the insensitivity when you look at the mass consequence behind what's really going on. You're talking about taking a man's music who was probably the most influential musician, artist next to Prince of all time, the most
probably
of all time. And you're talking about taking his music away because you don't understand some of his behavior. And because he has half of Sony's catalog and $1 billion worth of assets. And what black man, especially an entertainer, has ever walked away free? None of them. So it is not hard out of the expectation of the imagination to think, when you think of Martin Luther King being assassinated, Malcolm X being assassinated, JFK, let's put him in there, being assassinated, Bob Marley being assassinated, and a number of other ones we can speculate on that mysteriously may have died throughout our lifetime. Why not Michael Jackson? His influence speaks for it. His money speaks for it. And because he has behavior that we may not understand. Can we talk about why he likes to chill with kids? He said he likes their innocence. He enjoys just being around that the childlike innocence. It gives him inspiration.
I mean, but still, even that though, Sam, man, let's not take that as really as being weird, because teachers like to be around kids.
Talk about it.
You know what I mean? You got all these different professions that enjoy being around, working with kids, counselors and all that. So, just the fact that he wanted to work with random kids and bring is not to, something that would suggest that he was, doing anything sexual, in my opinion. I just want to put that out there.
That was a great point.
Yeah.
And it needed to be said because people really enjoy being around children. Some people do that. And when you look at a musician where you can kind of go, damn, where did he get the inspiration behind that? Maybe it was being around children. He helped the sick. He helped a lot of different kids. He was giving them donation. He said something, I don't know if you caught the audio of that, where they had like a interview that may not have been taped or shown too much with Piers Morgan. He said he slit his wrist before he hurt a child. Like, he came out and said, there's no way in hell this would happen. I don't do this kind of stuff. They're trying to destroy me. I would not do it. Where some people in their place of guilt would not vehemently deny their charges. He didn't do this.
The media, we got to shift this to the media. The media right now could have you believe in something that never, ever, ever, ever happened. Right now, we always talk about the power of the media, and that's why we, in my opinion, that's the most important, one of the most important, aspects when we talk about propaganda, and certain things like that. That controls the mass, that controls what people think. You said it earlier. How could all these people with all this evidence, the 10-year investigation, the fact that this, that, and the third, how could they still just believe it after this watching the documentary? It's the propaganda. It's the way the brain works. You know what I mean? It's the way that people are wired. So, the media is important, man. It can have, like I said, Jay-Z even spoke about, the media, and it can build you up to be a god, or it can make you like a devil, all in the same week.
I mean, and we see who else better and what more prominent name with the bigger platform and especially the right color than Oprah Winfrey to seal it and bring it all in. Now, I've seen a lot of rumors, and there's been a lot of people hitting me up on my my comment section of YouTube, kind of giving a little bit of conspiracy as to who funded the whole Michael Jackson, even Neverland. Now, I think it was somebody from the UK, some producer out of the UK who produced the film, but who actually put money toward it. There's some names floating around, and I'm not going to throw them out there until we get proper receipts on that. But if we do, and it is real, it's going to be an explosive episode. We'll talk about that offhand. But I want to bring, just to kind of close this conversation, Monique's husband said some very interesting things, kind of historical things, a little bit of a 3-minute conversation, then we'll turn that off, in regards to why Oprah Winfrey would do something like this after being so cool with Michael Jackson. Here it is.
Oprah had Sister Maya Angelou on her show. And she was coming on with a level of frequency. And then all of a sudden, one day, you didn't see her anymore. And it was after the show when they were speaking in reference to finding out people's lineage and their history through, I guess, DNA and things of that nature. And it was shared with Oprah Winfrey that her forefathers or her family members prior to her may have been slaves to Elvis Presley's family. And she was so excited to hear that. And my Maya Angelou looked over at her like, what did you just say? Mm-hmm. How can you be excited to hear that your family was enslaved, number one, by anybody, much less Elvis Presley's family? And it spoke to a level of the delusional state that she lives in. Spoke about it last week. There's this thing called the Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710, my people. Come on. Again, Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710. And we see replications of that right now. And what that was, there were four things that would allow the slave to get out from under bondage. Number one, it was to save the slave master's life. Or number two, to save the slave master's property. Number three, to create something that was profitable for the slave master. Or number four, tell on one of the other slaves. Come on. So we see right now that there's still that mentality because there's a level of creation of profit for the slave master. And there's a level of freedom, or should I say telling on the other brothers, because Michael was technically free. He's no longer here to defend himself, but we're going to give a platform because we know there's a level of defense that is not going to be had for somebody of color. And a prime example of that is if you're very interested in expelling or dispelling the myths and bringing the truth to the forefront, all we would ask is, why did you never come out and say Monique did nothing wrong?
Thoughts on that, man, before we close it?
Yeah, that's man. First of all, the brother's 100% accurate. You know what he's saying, and that's why I always think, you know, it's important to know your history. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm gonna really get deep into it and learn. You know, because when you see behaviors, why people act certain ways, well, okay, this is probably why. You know what I mean? It just, to me, you know, it baffles me, man. You know, to see, you know, even people in high positions, even going against each other like that, man, when we could all really be, you know, lifting a hand to try to help each other. But yeah, I 100% agree, you know, with everything he said. It's nothing I can really add to that, man.
Nah.